And then you lose your job and you need to bring a new face and almost what would feel like a lie into an interview. If you don't believe you're worth like even getting this job, the person doing that interview is going to sense it very quickly. Maybe not as fast on Zoom, but like in person, your body language, how you look them in the eye, how you show up with your handshake, how you just ask questions, like all of this psychology affects you. And so I'm a big proponent for let's be accurate about our character. My guest today is Leslie Barber, writer, grant consultant, standardized patient, race director, bread baker, cooking teacher, former triathlete, and now author of Unemployable, The Psychological Toll of Proving Your Worth. Leslie has spent 40 years proving her worth in every room she walked into, and she finally wrote the book about why none of it was ever enough. Leslie, welcome to Hustle 50.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And so you were referred by our buddy Savan, who you just appeared on his podcast, Life Between Titles. And that was a really interesting listen. I listened to the whole thing and I just thought about his questions. And some of that was just rather fascinating in terms of the time span, you know, for this book that you've written. I'd like to just jump right in. You started outlining this book in 1988 as like a job hunting manual. 1998. Right. And it started out as a job hunting manual and it became something else entirely. Can you walk me through the actual mechanics of that transformation? Like, was there a moment you sat down and said, this is a memoir now? Or did it happen gradually without you noticing?
Well, I mean, in 98, I had just gotten out of graduate school and I had big dreams and I had lots of goals and then started applying for jobs and got a lot of nothing back. And I was like, oh no, this isn't how it's supposed to be. So my idea was I would save my cover letters and then have my rejection letter. So the cover letter would be the title, you know, the first page of the chapter, and then at the end, the rejection letter. And in between, it would be filled with tips for job hunting. And at the end of the writing the book, I'd have a job and I'd have a book.
Right. Which is a cool idea. It's a cool idea in itself, right?
Yeah.
It's fun, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, because I thought it would be, and there'd be an end to that. So it didn't go that way. And I do still have a lot of the hard copies in a file, which one of my friends suggested I make a zine of.
Oh, yeah.
So I might be doing that. But I set it away for years, you know, and just kept kind of going through the same process, but not quite as focused. And then a few years ago, found it again and put it away. And a couple more years after that, I moved and I found the file and I was like, oh, wow, I still have all this. Let's think about it. And then I had surgery and I was on bed rest for a long time. So I was like, well, I have time. So I thought about what had changed since 1998 and what was the same. And a lot of things hadn't changed. I guess that's the same, what had changed.
Yeah.
So it was fun to kind of contrast my experiences as a job hunter, kind of not being young anymore, but now I'm on the old side of it. And I have a lot of experience as opposed to not enough experience, but yet the feeling of it was the same. So that's when the book kind of really took its current shape.
And how long ago was that?
About 2.5 years ago when I sat down to wrestle it into its final destination. Right. So, yeah.
And so how did you reconstruct like a coherent narrative out of something that had been fragmented before? And then all these years later, like how did that process take place?
I really just looked at kind of the structure of job hunting to start with. Like, how do you look for a job? And then I took that and then started looking at what are the outcomes and then what are the reasons that I thought, and then did some research and, you know, was right in some cases and not in the other. And just started to gel.
Yeah. Oh, that's
So,
cool. Yeah.
and I threw in a lot of stories. There's a lot of very personal stories about things that happened along the way in my career. I've had lots of jobs, had lots of businesses, and lots of side hustles to try to make it through.
Yeah,
There's a lot of funny stories.
that was the exciting
So,
thing for me. So there's two reasons I think, people listening to this I thought would find this super compelling. One is I always love it when somebody writes a book. The I've written an ebook recently, and the work that was needed for me to feel good about it was pretty deep. I had to go and the amount of revisions I went through, and I banged it out pretty fast. And it was mainly like a list of 50 side hustles. So it wasn't as much writing as it was compiling data. But still, even that, everything from what's the title going to be, to are these chapters relevant, to are my personal anecdotes interesting enough, when I step out, like, yeah, this was interesting to me, but is it going to be interesting to somebody else? There's just so much that goes into writing a book, and I'm always proud of people that actually get it published, put it up on Amazon, or end up working with a publisher, whatever, but take that action, make the effort. The second thing is you have this incredible list of, we'll call them side hustles, but they're also jobs, but mainly things that you started, throughout your career, not just like taking a different job, but like things that you started is what this show's all about. And we'll get into those. Um, you mentioned hiring an editor and having people tear the manuscript apart. Tell me about like the hardest piece of feedback you got, the one that stung the most before it helped.
well, I had revised it a number of times. Like I thought I tore it into pieces, and I read it at length to my poor sister and my partner, like so many times. Like, I think it's ready. I think it's ready. And then I was like, I'm going to get an editor to put eyes on it. And she came back to me and she goes, "Do not publish this book the way it is." And I was like,
Ouch.
"What?" She goes,
Oh,
"Just don't do it." I was like, "Oh."
right.
And she gave me some advice on what would make it publishable. And so I sat with that. I was really mad for a few days. I'm like, what did I just pay for? All these years of
Right.
work. But then I sat with it and realized she was absolutely correct. And I did some changes in the structure, the layout, some of the, at the end of chapters, some of the lessons that are I made them into little,
Hmm.
boxes and graphs and charts. Like, was this more reader friendly that way, and upped
Hmm.
my humor, added some more stories. And then I was like, okay, it feels complete.
Yeah, that's
So,
great.
but that was a hard one. It's hard to hear what you think is this perfect thing is really not it yet.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. And
mhm.
but there's a lesson that I think is so valuable in being willing to hear feedback.
Yeah.
Before you launch, essentially we'll call it your baby, it's
Hmm.
like, and you've cultivated so much. How could anything be wrong with it? It's ready to go. I've been
Yeah.
working so hard. I'm kind of over it. I want it to be done, and then boom. No, no, no. You have to work on this and this and this. And sometimes that's just the case. I think in my universe of marketing, it's really important to get buy-in. Sometimes it's not appropriate and you just got to go to market because you don't have time on your side or budget. But other times when you do, it's really sometimes that feedback changes, its chance of success in such a dramatic way that it's super critical and important to get that feedback and seek it. And I think also on a personal level, like if we're open to feedback, it just means we're still teachable. And I think that's
Yes.
that's huge along the journey. Was there a point in the entire editing process where you just considered scrapping the whole project, like even after 28 years in? Did you ever think about scrapping it, or were you like always determined to no matter what, just get it out?
I mean, I still think about scrapping it.
I love that.
Not
I
really.
love that answer. Yeah.
There were, a lot of times I would be like, because I've written a lot of other books, not yet published. I've had some stuff in anthologies, but like I love the writing process. And so I was like, why am I doing this one? Why is this the one that's getting published out of all the rest of my books? Um, and it's not the one that I loved so much. Like I have some fiction works that I love, but this one was relevant. I kept every time I was talking to people or online or in different groups, something would come up, and I'm like, I have a chapter about that. I have a chapter about that. Oh my gosh, I have a chapter about that. Or, so I felt like what I had to say was very timely and very relevant. And so the when I was always in self-doubt, I was like, well, but people are asking for this information. Like they want to have conversations about it. So it kind of kept me going forward at that point.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. And so I want to get into some of these side hustles and things that you did throughout your life in business and in your career and your entrepreneurship. But I also want to kind of tie up in a bow for our listeners why they should go get your book. Like, tell us a little bit about who it's for, what you think the impact it's going to have on them, like what your intentions were, and maybe just a couple of reasons why it may really help them with where they're at in their particular journey trying to find a job or thinking about maybe quitting and considering what might happen if they don't find a job,
mhm.
because I imagine all of those goodies are in there. And maybe just tell us a little bit about why to get it, who it's for, and who you hope to help or inspire or make laugh or some of that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, my audience, I've always said is anybody that's had a job, that's looked for a job, that's lost a job, or that's hired someone for a job, and that there's very few people that don't fit into that category. There's some nepotism, maybe farmers, but
Right.
otherwise,
Yeah.
you know, I have a chapter about that.
Everyone. Yeah.
Everyone, I think there's something relatable in it to every person who's struggled at some point in the process. And now, with AI and with the job market, and it's very painful. A lot of the messages that get sent to somebody applying for a job,
Mm,
within 12 seconds of submitting a resume, you hear no in some
mm,
cases, or maybe never, or,
mm,
there's a lot of things out there. And I just feel like the stories that I have in here and kind of um, the forward facing message is like, you're not alone in this.
mm,
And it's a movement. Like, it's not about how to be unemployed,
mm,
it's how you're unemployable in the way that society perceives you, maybe.
mm,
So,
mm,
rephrasing, how you talk about yourself.
mm.
Instead of
Oh
saying
yeah.
I'm unemployable, say I'm
Hmm.
unemployable. Like I can do a million things instead of
Yeah.
I can't do anything. So it's really for people, especially who are quote multipotentialites,
Yeah.
which are people that are very interested in lots of things and good at
Mm,
lots of things, but hard at maybe fitting into some niche, which is
yeah.
kind of how I live my life. So
I love that. I'm really big on language. Um, so I mentor quite a few people, and a lot of time it's around vocational, a lot of time it's around other personal things. And I find that when people are self-degrading, um, and they have language around it, uh, I'll often say, listen, man, if you say something is, it is. And if you say something isn't, it isn't. And it
yeah.
really is that simple. And I'm not talking about woo-woo manifestation. I'm talking about belief systems. And so if you say like I suck, or I just can't get a job, or I just nobody no the things that you say and put out into the universe are real. And I find that, and I guess to give an example is, there's a group of people that I mentor where you often would hear something like, I'm a piece of crap. And I'll go, no, you're not a piece of crap. You've done crappy things, but that doesn't make you a piece of crap. That's how you were acting prior. Now we're conscious of it, which is sort of the first step. We're admitting, we're becoming aware, we're acknowledging it, but it doesn't do anyone any good for us to beat ourselves up. yes, there's some pain in realizing that maybe we've acted inappropriately or that we've found things questionable in our character that we want to work on. But there's a big difference in acknowledging that and moving on and starting to behave and practice acting in a new way than just saying, well, I'm a piece of crap, you know, I don't know what else to tell you, I'm ho hum, and that kind of thinking can really affect how you show up with everyone in your life. And so if you're showing up that way with everyone in your life and then getting that feedback, whether it's accurate or not, and then you lose your job and you need to bring a new face and almost what would feel like a lie into an interview. If you don't believe you're worth like even getting this job, the person doing that interview is going to sense it very quickly. Maybe not as fast on Zoom, but like in person, your body language, how you look them in the eye, how you show up with your handshake, how you just ask questions, like all of this psychology affects you. And so I'm a big proponent for, like, let's be accurate about our character. I'm not a piece of crap. I just am working on some things that maybe I want to change about, things that I find questionable in my character.
Yeah.
All right.
And also like I just want to throw one more thing in.
Yeah,
Like
please.
I've used this mantra for myself, but especially as I had children growing up, I always said like there's many paths to the top of a mountain. Like, and you don't even necessarily have to be on top. Like, just don't stop moving. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's kind of the message that comes through my book is like you don't just give up and roll over and say, well, I didn't get that job, so I'm just not going to work ever, or I'm not going to try something else and something new. So
Yeah,
just
I
want to
mean,
throw that in there.
in the corporate world, you hear like fail fast, right?
Yeah.
And I remember when I first started working in web and also getting jobs in corporate, when they said that, I was like, I don't believe that you mean that. Like, what do you mean fail? Like,
Yeah.
first of all, I'm not going to fail. And it's like, no, no, no. You're going to fail many times. And some companies would embrace the idea of trying lots of things, failing fast. That's all that means. But the the thing I hear you saying is a big theme of this show. It comes out in every single interview, and that is to continue to take action. Let's not talk about it. Let's do something,
Yes.
and let's continue to put one foot forward. And that's super hard to tell somebody that has submitted 1,500 applications and not gotten a job over the course of 3 months.
Yeah.
And they're using all the AI submission tools. They're using all 10 major platforms. They've tweaked their profiles. They're they're out of answers. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, keep going, bud. It's it's tough. It can get tough.
It's very hard.
All right. I want to pivot and I want to talk about one of the most interesting things that you've done. That's why it's the top of the list of these things as we get through them. You spent years as a standardized patient at the University of Washington, essentially getting paid to pretend to be sick so medical students could practice on you. How does someone even find that job? And what does it take to be convincing enough that a future doctor believes you?
Well, I can't exactly remember how I found it, probably in the classified ads, honestly. I worked in healthcare for a
Right.
lot of years, so I don't remember how. I am still really good friends with the person who hired me originally all those years ago. And I actually worked with Joel McHale, if you know him.
I
You
do.
know,
I have an interesting story about Joel.
oh,
So
okay.
So, sidebar, I was engaged to a gal who was in the master's theater program 1 year after him. And
Okay.
so I saw Joel McHale's I guess you would call it's his thesis performance to graduate at
Uh-huh.
that theater down off the Ave. It was the
Hmm.
one of the most unbelievable performances I've ever seen. And it was kind of like the story of Rocky, the fighter
Okay.
Rocky
Uh-huh.
movies.
Mhm.
It was unbelievable. And I also have friends that are like cousins of his or
Okay.
in-laws or whatever. Anyway, I know who Joel McHale is. Go on, please.
Oh, that's fine. Anyway, we were both standardized patients.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I could totally. So he must have been super funny to do that with.
Well, I think he was just getting recognized more. So the medical students would come out and go, I know that guy.
Right. This isn't
So
real. You're
that,
pranking me.
yeah,
Right.
I saw him the other week and I handed him my card with my book on it. And I said, you're in my book. So hopefully he sees this and gets more curious.
That's
But yeah,
awesome.
anyway, so I started doing that just kind of to make extra money.
Mhm.
I was running my own business at that point, which wasn't providing a lot. So this was just another little gig. And, you practice. I was very good at depression. So I would scare those poor medical students into worrying about, oh, is she going to be okay when I leave? You know, so
Yeah. So you'd have to act depressed.
Oh yeah, or
Wow.
whatever case you studied. We had a handful each. We're good at.
Right.
It was a lot of actors, and then I was in there too. So, but
So
we would assess them, and we would give them feedback on how they had, interaction with us and how to make it better. And it was great fun. And in the world, I would occasionally run into one of them as a physician.
right.
We go, why do I know you? And I have
Hey,
there's a story in my book about a couple different ones that were pretty funny. So I'll leave that as a you've got to read it to believe it. But
yeah,
it was
it's
great,
just
and
it's so wacky to me.
yeah, it's all over. And I ended up pivoting from that. I got hired as a consultant for Kaplan Education Systems,
Right.
who was formerly National Medical School Review. So I went to the East Coast for a few months and opened up an international testing center. And so we
Mm,
hired and trained standardized patients to test international medical students on their ability to be doctors. So it was a big, big project, which is
yeah.
great. So
And so that sounds pretty sort of like a corporate gig. Like how did that end? Was it that the company, did you move on or did the company do something else or
that project was just to build and train the staff and the patients and get it running. So once it was up and running, my contract was over.
yeah,
So
right,
that was
right.
that. But it was crazy. Like a couple times they'd like come pick me up in their car and drive me to Manhattan up into some skyscraper to have meetings. What's
Right.
happening to
Yeah.
me? I loved it though. I met some really cool people.
Yeah.
Um, I have a lot of weird stories about that too. So
And
yeah,
somewhere in the book.
some are in the book, some are longer and more tedious. I don't know that this is the place for it, but
Right, right.
if
Okay.
we can circle back later.
So we've got a few more of these. Let's keep going. So the bread
Okay.
business, Elsie Sourdough, started in your kitchen. You were selling sourdough bread, cinnamon rolls, scones to the neighbors during the pandemic. Walk me
Hmm.
through what marketing a home bakery actually looks like. Was it a neighborhood Facebook group, a handwritten sign, word of mouth? Like, how did that happen? And was it, I guess, it's not super important that it was profitable, but I kind of want to understand the financials of it.
Sure. Well, I had started, prior to that, I was doing cooking classes, mostly focused on Instant Pot. It was prior to the pandemic. And I had a large Facebook group called
Mm.
Oh Crap at 6 o'clock. That was the name of my business. So
Yeah.
it was about fast, healthy cooking. So I was teaching classes in that for quite a while. And then just having fun, I took some baking classes from somebody else and turned out, oh, I'm good at making sourdough. So, of course, they asked me to come in and start teaching sourdough classes um, eventually. And so I did that. And then the pandemic came, and I was like, oh, I got to make some money. So
Mhm.
who wants to buy some bread? And I just put it out I started another Facebook group, not neighborhood based, but it was there and word of mouth. And I
Yeah.
would do pop up shops and little cooking classes. I did some online classes and mostly just like always carrying 10 loaves of bread in my bag. And anyone I saw, they'd be like, what are you doing? I'm like, you want to buy some bread?
Right.
So,
Yeah.
the marketing of that was very organic. And I think the pandemic had a lot to do with it just because there wasn't a lot of stuff you could do at that time. And it wasn't super expensive because it's
Right.
flour
Yeah.
basically. And I got a second oven put in during the pandemic. So I had more ability. But I really got tired of the time. It
Yeah.
took up, you know, you have to, it doesn't take a lot of hands-on time, but you have to be available to the yeast. It's like,
So,
yeah.
dude, okay. So my wife has been given a starter,
Hmm.
and she, over the last 2 months, has gone a little, I'm not going to say crazy, but you be the judge. So she's got this starter, right? And it won't work
Hmm.
in this one spot in the house. So now it's in this bathroom with this heat lamp on at this temperature that we can't go in there, right? And it's like, but if
Yep.
we go in, there's a yell from the living room, don't, got to close the. It's like these starters are so temperamental. It's crazy. And then she'll, like, after a week of failure, like, she'll come out and it'll be full, instead of grow, like, because it has to grow. It's just
Hmm.
such a weird, fascinating thing.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know that I would enjoy enjoy the failure rate because you really have to, like, be ready for for the starters to fail, right? And then for all of that to go south if you do one thing wrong with
Yeah.
heat or the mixture or whatever. It just doesn't seem very easy.
Yeah. I got pretty lucky. I think since I moved to a new house, it has been a lot harder in this house to make sourdough work. So
Right.
I think if I had
Climate.
lived here, I might not. I mean, I just moved like 7 miles, but it made it not want to be good here. It's a tough
Yeah.
one. It's scientific, and I'm not. That's not my background. And I
Yeah.
liked it for the time, and then I just was like, I kind of don't like it anymore. Which is the fate of also being a multipotentialite, is you kind of master something, and you're like, well, what's that over there? Something sparkly. I better go try that instead.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Yep. Yep. We
mhm.
had during COVID, we had neighbors on about 3, 4 blocks away on their corner. They had a pie shoot, and they would just there was a little Venmo QR code at the sign, at the bottom of the
Mhm.
chute, and you would just put your order in, and they would just slide you down this little, yummy pie. Um, it was really cool, and there was always somebody outside. It wasn't like a line, but there you saw the activity. and
Mhm.
and so, was there ever a time where you think it could have turned into like a business, and was it just not worth it for you to consider expanding, like becoming a full-time baker? And
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely considered doing a bakery, but then I was in my like late 40s and I had two giant teenagers at the time. And I
yeah,
was tired. I was like, man, if I had this as my business, I don't know if I could pull out the energy to do this every single day at a
right,
certain time. Like I was lucky that I could just kind of do it on my timeline,
yeah,
not have to like have everything out at 7 a.m. So I think if I had tried sourdough like when I was 30, it might have been different. But I was not, it just wasn't what I could do anymore.
yeah. It was
So
less about the profitability and more about the
yeah.
time reward. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, moving on. You directed races, running, biking, triathlons, and also coached high school track. What does a race director actually do the week before a race, and what goes wrong that nobody in the crowd ever knows about?
Oh, so much. I think the worst part is the permitting process with different cities, the lead up and the timelines, and how you have to pay for so much stuff and have it
Mm,
in place exactly for 4 hours and not 4 hours and 2 minutes. And oh, that's hard. I think that's the hardest part is
hmm.
just fitting between the logistical lines that you're given. Um,
Yeah.
because we were,
And
it was fun and you get to be around great people and everyone's happy to be there for the most part. But it's like the logistics are just
yeah, and
very
all the monkey
hard.
wrench things that can go wrong.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Weather and
Weather for sure.
yeah, traffic and blah blah blah.
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay, of
Yeah.
all of these, which one made the most money relative to the effort, and which one cost you time you'll never get back? I think I know the answer, but like, help me understand. I think just to wrap up, I think from a, I, I think there's different ways we can look at like what we're talking about. One is if you're, tell me the word again. It's a multi-potentialite. Is
Hmm.
that is that the
That's the
word?
word. Yeah.
And so
Someone else
basically,
coined it, not me. But
right. It's like
yeah.
shiny object syndrome, but also applicable to the person who doesn't want to be tied down to one single thing.
Hmm.
Which I think there are going to be listeners, to this show that are like, yeah, I want to start a side hustle, but I don't want it to become 60 hours a week. I still want to do these other
Exactly.
things.
Yeah.
So I think just thinking about it like that, maybe not necessarily like the most money, but tell me about like if you were to choose one to do again that you had to do to make money, which one would it be
Hmm.
of all the things you've done?
Yeah, I don't know. I think probably doing the consulting gig for the testing center. I mean, that one definitely made, I still don't think I've made that much money. And I was like 30 years old back then.
Right.
They were very generous. Um, and it was hard. I worked like 18 hours days and, it was
Yeah.
very grueling, but the result was like concrete. There it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, doing stuff, the bread, like the creative part of doing bread and cooking and that kind of stuff feels good.
Mhm.
It just doesn't, it's hard to make a living on $8 loaves of bread
Right.
because and I don't know that I would do it again. I would teach it. Absolutely. I love the teaching part. I love sharing the knowledge. I called it like being a pusher. Everything I ever do, I'm like, oh, you gotta try this bread. Oh, you want to learn how to bake bread? I can do that.
Yeah.
Oh, you want to do a triathlon? Oh, I can train you in how to do a triathlon.
Yeah. Right.
Just sign
Yeah.
up for my triathlon. Um, so
I really
that's
like the idea of there's this concept that comes up a lot as well for, the people listening to my show that are afraid of aging out, have already aged out. They're somewhere around their 50s or they're about to be in their 50s. Um, and they're sort of thinking about, the next thing. And I find people forget that they have 50 years of life experience of things that they've become good at. And
mhm.
some of them might be really good at like two or three things. And that was a big inspiration about the show. It's like if you're scared of the bottom dropping out, here's 50 ideas of, I bet three of them that you could literally just light up a quick website, go start telling people on Facebook Marketplace, and you'll
Yeah.
be getting gigs. You may not be making, you know, the entire salary you need to have an amazing life in your first 3 to 6 months, but you're probably paying some bills and you're
Hmm.
probably not losing your house. And I
Hmm.
really like the idea of choosing something that you can consult, teach, or coach, and then just telling people you do that is
Yeah.
all like that's all that's required. Yes, you're going to have to maybe figure out some formatting, some curriculum, some value, and you're going to have to figure out what that's worth. And typically, I find that that's just kind of deciding what your hourly rate needs to be,
Hmm.
um, which doesn't have to be that high to start out. So you can get some quick customers, some great 5-star reviews, and then scale that up.
Yeah.
And so I'm a I really like the idea of like helping people understand, look, if the bottom dropped out, you can do this other thing to tie you through so you can, really get serious about honoring what would really make you happy, which we may just not have the luxury of doing right now. But
Hmm.
there are options. And I'd rather people do something that they didn't really want to do versus get so depressed that, they now they need medical attention or they're just, and I
Right.
think, and I don't mean to fearmonger, but I think that we're underestimating the possible job loss that's going to hit every municipality in the world in the next couple of years. And I talk about it a
Hmm.
lot. It's the whole reason I started the channel, is this sense of urgency I think people need to have, it of at least understanding whether or not they have thought about their personal brand, their personal skill set, how they're going to apply it to survive if they cannot get a job doing what they've been doing for a really long time.
Hmm.
And I think your book is perfect for that way of thinking, how to start thinking about things now, you know? So I hope people go check it out. Um,
Me too.
uh, if someone listening has an idea for a side hustle right now, something they've been sitting on, what's the one practical, unglamorous first step you'd tell them to take this week, like in terms of action?
I would probably tell them to try it on somebody for free. Just
Mm. Hmm.
say, hey, friend, let's pretend that you need some coaching in this, and I'm going to do that for you today for free. Because I feel like in my life, people have been generous with me that way, and it has helped to, format things better for me. Like that
Yep.
feedback at the beginning, so you don't stumble around for months, is really helpful, and people are helpful. I think we have forgotten that in these days. Like people like to be asked for help.
Oh my God,
Um,
totally. First of all, I love that. I love that answer. I think that getting feedback to iron out the kinks is super important. I would advise anybody and everybody to do that. Like, try it out on your friends, see what they say, get the feedback, get the practice, get the butterflies out. The imposter syndrome kind of diminishes a little bit. Um, and yeah, I just really like that a lot. Okay, so tell us where people can find your book, and I will be sure to put all the links, to go check you out, your website, your story, all your Substack stuff. I'll put that in the description, but tell us where you'd like them to go first, to your website or to Amazon or.
well, everything on my website kind of directs you to all those things, but it's available on Amazon. It's also on Kindle. It's at all the Ingram Spark. You can go to barnesandnoble.com, bookshop.org. There's a whole lot of different sellers. It's in store at Elliott Bay Books in Seattle. So
Oh, yeah,
I would
awesome.
be super psyched if locals went in and bought it, because then they would buy more from me. That would
Yeah,
be cool.
yeah.
There's some in Redmond at a local shop. If you ever see me walking down the street, I probably have some in my bag.
Right. And the website is elsiepress.com. That's
Yes.
ELSIE press.com. And again, I'll
Yes.
put that in the description. Any
Thank
final
you.
thoughts, Leslie, before we say goodbye?
Well, I just, my goal, as I state in the very beginning of my book, is to make the world a better place. And that's how I started my careers, plural, is how am I making a difference in the world? And I really do hope that this book can provide even a moment of understanding or levity, or, just some feeling that people are needing right now, that helps them move even incrementally forward from being stuck. And that
I
to
love
me
it.
is like satisfying. That's why I'm here. So
I love it,
yeah.
and I appreciate that, and I think it's amazing. I also want to say you said something really super super important. It's clear that you want to help people. And my hope is that people feel like I'm helping them by bringing people like you, onto this show. But the one thing a lot of people forget is that most people feel better when they help somebody out. They're looking for an opportunity to do good. And so when you ask for help, you're not burdening somebody. You're actually giving them an opportunity to do good and feel good about doing good. And so we
That's
have to
right.
remember, like, people want to help way more than we think. And I just think it's really cool that you said that. And I think it's a great place to end. And thank you so much for coming on. And I wish you all the best of luck.
Thanks, Rory.
All right. Take care, Leslie.
You too. Bye bye.
Okay, bye.